The architecture of identity, designing spaces that shape who we are becoming. Good afternoon. I would like to begin with a personal observation. Over time, I have come to believe that architecture is not only about buildings, it's about relationships. Relationships between people and landscape, between climate and material, between daily routines and long-term well-being. And perhaps most importantly, the relationship between the spaces we inhabit and the people we are becoming. The premise behind the architecture of identity is that environments shape us in subtle but profound ways. We often think we design buildings, but in reality, the process of design reveals the buildings to us. They influence how we wake in the morning, how we move through the day, how we interact with space, how we interact with each other, how we socialize, how we feel when we return home at night. Architecture influences emotional regulation, attention, and connection. Once we begin to see this clearly, the role of the architect begins to change. The question is no longer only, what should this building look like? The question becomes, what kind of life does this space support? The beginning, moving toward the land. Our practice, Studio IMKM, did not begin with a master plan. It began with a question. After many years of working in architecture offices in New York, we began to feel increasingly interested in what lies beyond the building footprint, beyond the property line. We were interested in understanding how architecture could engage with its environment rather than simply occupy space. We were drawn to the idea that design could operate as a tool for stewardship. This curiosity eventually led us to a coastal region of Panama, an extraordinary landscape overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The beauty of the site was evident, but so were the many challenges. Years of cattle ranching had compacted soils, cleared native forests, and reduced biodiversity. The rainwater runoff was carrying sediment towards fragile marine ecosystems. Native vegetation had been diminished. It became immediately clear that before we could design buildings, we needed to understand the land. We began to walk the property. We observed how water moved after a heavy rain. We studied prevailing wind patterns. We learned which trees were native to the region and which had disappeared. We spoke with local residents about how the land had changed over decades. That process shifted our understanding of architecture. We began to see design not as an imposition of form, but as a participation in a living system. Amastancia, the first project. Amastancia was the first project we completed within this context. It represents the moment when our thinking began to change. Rather than approaching the project as an isolated object, we approached it as a spatial experience embedded within the landscape. We spent time on the site observing light patterns throughout the day. We studied how the horizon line met the ocean. We observed where breezes provided natural cooling. We asked how architecture could provide refuge without disconnecting from the environment. The resulting design emphasizes spatial awareness and calm. The architecture frames views rather than dominating them. Outdoor terraces extend living space into the landscape. Deep overhangs filter light and provide shade. Material selections were made to maintain continuity with the surroundings. Amastancia taught us that architecture can support emotional well-being through clarity and deference. It showed us that the most powerful gesture is often not addition, but subtraction. The house allows occupants to feel grounded. It offers privacy without isolation. It allows landscape to remain present. Research indicates that access to light, air, and natural views supports cognitive clarity and emotional balance. Amastancia became the foundation for how we think about identity in space. It demonstrated that architecture can support introspection. It can create conditions for stillness. It can allow individuals to feel more connected to their environment and to themselves. Casa Loro, architecture meets restoration. After Amastancia, our work expanded to include more active engagement with ecological repair. Casa Loro was located on land that had experienced significant environmental degradation. Soil erosion was visible. Vegetation patterns had been diminished. Rainwater moved quickly across compacted surfaces, sending sediment into the ocean. We realized that architecture alone could not resolve these issues. The land required healing. We began implementing rewilding and reforestation strategies. Native species were introduced to stabilize soil and reconstitute biodiversity. Landscape systems were designed to slow stormwater runoff and support groundwater absorption. Ecological corridors were re-established to allow wildlife movement. More than 10,000 trees were planted as part of this effort. Only after these interventions began did the architecture take its form. Casa Loro is composed of pavilions connected through garden rooms and open pathways. Rather than isolating interior space from exterior space, the architecture encourages movement through the landscape. Wind flows through rooms. Light enters through vegetation. Materials such as teak and bamboo allow the architecture to age naturally in parallel with its surroundings. This approach reflects principles of biophilia, the principle that humans have an affinity for natural environments. Discovery is encouraged by design and experience. When the architecture allows us to feel connected to nature, stress is reduced, attention improves, we feel more present. Casa Loro reinforces the idea that architecture can be a component or a contributor of ecological restoration. The project demonstrates that development and conservation are not mutually exclusive. They reinforce each other. Work expanded to the scale of territory. Reserva Panamais is an ongoing effort to integrate architecture, conservation, forestry management, and community participation. Rather than designing isolated structures, we began building relationships. Relationships between water systems and vegetation, between soil health and long-term resilience, between development and ecological continuity. Regenerative design became an important framework. Sustainability attempts to reduce harm. Regenerative design attempts to improve conditions. It asks how architecture can create positive environmental impact. It asks how development can strengthen biodiversity. It asks how design can support long-term stewardship of the land. Architecture becomes part of a larger ecological narrative. Wellness within this framework extends beyond the individual to include the health of the environment and the communities connected to it. Our reforestation initiatives contribute to ecological stability while also creating opportunities for local participation and skill development over many years of collaboration. Through Studio Tuali, this knowledge evolves into the production of furniture using responsibly sourced materials connected to our reforestation efforts. This process reinforces continuity between environmental care, craft, and meaningful work. In this way, sustainability supports a broader definition of well-being. one that connects healthy landscapes with long-term community resilience and a deeper sense of relationship between people, material, and place. Community engagement and local participation. An essential dimension of this work involves collaboration with local communities. Architecture does not exist in isolation. It exists within social and cultural contexts. At Reserva Panamais, environmental initiatives extend beyond the boundaries of individual buildings. One example is our sea turtle conservation program. Each year, local teams monitor nesting areas along the coastline. Eggs are protected in carefully managed hatcheries. Visitors and local school groups are invited to participate in sea turtle releases once the hatchlings are ready to return to the ocean. These events are small but meaningful moments. They connect individuals directly with ecological cycles. They create awareness of environmental fragility. They foster a sense of shared responsibility. Reforestation initiatives also involve collaboration with local workers, school groups, and environmental specialists. Planting native species not only restores biodiversity, but it also supports local knowledge systems. Environmental education programs introduce children from nearby communities to the concepts of conservation and land stewardship. Workshops and guided visits create opportunities for dialogue about long-term environmental responsibility. These programs reinforce the idea that architecture is not just about buildings. It's about relationships between people and place. It's about creating frameworks that support continuity across generations. Designing for daily life. Projects such as Las Tortugas and the Riding Club extend this thinking towards shared experience. These spaces are designed to encourage daily interaction with the landscape and with one another. Paths encourage walking rather than driving. Outdoor areas support informal gathering. Architecture becomes background rather than spectacle. Increasingly, we observe that individuals are prioritizing quality of experience over quantity of space. Walkability, access to nature, and meaningful connection are becoming central considerations. Architecture can support these priorities by creating environments that promote both social interaction and personal reflection. Technology as quiet support. Technology also plays a role in shaping experience, but technology should not dominate attention. It should operate quietly. Lighting systems can support our body's natural cycles. Climate systems can maintain comfort without constant adjustment. Automation can reduce repetitive decision-making. Technology should reduce friction. It should give time back. Its purpose is not stimulation, but support. Human-centered technology allows individuals to focus on relationships, creativity, and well-being. Architecture as care. If architecture shapes identity, then design becomes an act of care. Care for environmental systems, care for human well-being, care for cultural continuity. Architecture influences how individuals experience time, attention, and connection. Projects like these demonstrate that development can strengthen ecological systems rather than diminish them. Design can contribute to environmental resilience. It can reinforce relationships between humans and landscape. It can create continuity between daily life and natural processes. Architecture becomes part of a broader story, a story about how we choose to live, a story about what we value, and a story about what we leave behind for future generations. Toward alignment. Ultimately, we believe that architecture is moving toward alignment. Alignment between environmental intelligence and human aspiration. Alignment between spatial experience and emotional well-being. Alignment between development and stewardship. People increasingly seek environments that support calm, clarity, and connection. They seek spaces that reflect who they are becoming. Architecture can support this process through light, material, continuity with the landscape, through thoughtful consideration and integration of technology. Design can reduce friction between human life and the environment. It supports resilience, encourages awareness, it creates meaning. When architecture aligns with these principles, it becomes more than shelter. It becomes a framework for life.